How do you get a job in Formula One or motorsport? It's a question that I'm asked all the time. So over the last few months, I've interviewed over 50 professionals from the motorsport industry to understand how to start or advance your career in this wonderful industry. So this video is going to cover everything you need to know to give yourself the best opportunity of finding that dream job, including how to find the best role for you, how to break your way into the industry even if you have no contacts, and the inside track on how to ace applications and interviews from the interviewers themselves. And I also spoke to Kimi Raikkonen's former race engineer. So watch to the end if you want to know how he managed to engineer for one of Formula One's best drivers. So let's start from the top. When a lot of people think about a job in Formula One, Formula E, IndyCar, WEC or wider motorsport, they typically think of a race engineer or a mechanic. But remember, these teams and series are entire businesses with all kinds of departments. For example, the larger Formula One teams, Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari, employ about 1,000 staff members, while the smallest team, Haas, employs about 250. That means that the estimated total number of people working in F1 teams is about 7,000. And if you include staff working for the F1 organisation, the FIA and other partners, that number rises to about 10,000. And unfortunately, that's not a lot of jobs. So with a limited supply of jobs and a lot of demand for jobs in F1, it's a very competitive space. It's not impossible, but it is competitive. So you need to be very well prepared. And it's also important to note that it's rare for someone to walk directly into an F1 role without any prior motorsport experience. For most people who do end up working in F1, they start in lower levels of motorsport. But the good news is that the entire motorsport industry is much, much bigger than just Formula One, with the FIA stating that there's 1.5 million paid motorsport jobs globally. Now, this is broken down into 576,000 direct and 924,000 indirect jobs. And it's the direct jobs that you'll be interested in, which includes roles within professional teams, governing bodies, local motorsport clubs, event organisers, and related industries like race car and parts manufacture. So I say that to show there's actually a lot of opportunity if you're looking for a motorsport job. And there are a ton of different roles as well.
If you're a lawyer or solicitor, you can be in motorsport. You know, if you're a chef, you can get into motorsport and access into a team in that way.
For example, an F1 team is made up of many different roles that can be roughly broken down into a few main categories. Now, this of course will differ from team to team, but around 20 to 25% of F1 staff work in design and aerodynamics, 15 to 20% in mechanical and electrical engineering, and 10 to 15% in data analysis and IT. Manufacturing and production take up 15 to 20%, while race operations and pit crew account for about 10 to 15%, and logistics and transport cover 5 to 10%. And roles like marketing, PR, sponsorship, HR, finance and legal make up another 3 to 10%. While media and communication roles cover about 3 to 5. And there are way more role types in motorsport. There are literally thousands of motorsport job roles to apply to at any moment. Now, I've been lucky enough to work in motorsport for all of my life. From racing myself, working in teams, managing events, selling motorsport equipment, and now content creation. And I love this industry and the incredible people in it. So about 9 months ago, I decided I wanted to help more people get into this amazing industry. Or if they already have a job, help them level up their career. So with a small team, I launched fluidjobs.com. And we're currently building out a resource to share information on how to build your dream career in motorsport. I've already recorded about 20 podcasts, we've run a seminar that 4,000 people signed up to, we're creating guides and launched a careers YouTube channel. It's been very busy. We're also curating the very best jobs in Formula One and wider motorsport. So if you want to find the best jobs first, check out fluidjobs.com. And we've also just launched a new tool to offer practical advice on how to get yourself best prepared for applying to and interviewing for motorsport jobs, based on all the research we've done speaking to HR professionals. And even if you're not currently looking for a job, it's a great thing to do to best prepare for when that moment comes. It takes just a few minutes to complete and will help you to spot any areas where you can improve and give you the best shot at landing that dream job. And there's a link to that tool in the description below. So let's get into what I learned from interviewing all of these motorsport professionals. First thing they all spoke about is making sure that motorsport is really your passion. Now, it sounds simple, but if you don't have the passion, you'll struggle to go the extra mile to secure the best jobs in motorsport.
When you have that passion for what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, then it makes life a lot easier.
But the thing with motorsport is that it can look very glamorous from the outside. Amazing cars, incredible locations, and parties on boats in Monaco. But the reality can be very different. For those who do make it to Formula One, the glamour can wear off pretty quickly, and the travelling and long hours can become exhausting. So it's the passion for the sport that keeps people in. And Oliver from McLaren Applied had some great advice.
Do your research and find out where your passion and your core skills cross over.
So you have the passion, but what skills do you need and which roles require higher education? Now, of course, depending on the role you're going for, you may or may not need a degree. For example, if you want to be an aerodynamicist, a race engineer, or a data analyst, you're very likely going to need some form of university degree.
Bottom line is that you have to find a university that allow you to develop into a Formula One engineer, as simple as that.
However, if you're looking to get a role in things like the pit crew, the marketing team, or the hospitality staff, you're less likely to have this requirement. So, from the get-go, make sure you understand what's going to be required. If you don't have a degree and can't see yourself getting one, then you'll need to find an initial role that doesn't require it and work your way up from there. And transitioning from other industries is also possible, although will help if your previous role is somewhat related. For example, Oliver Mahler from McLaren started out as a school teacher, then worked for Mercedes-Benz Road Cars as a product trainer, so he was still teaching people stuff, before finally ending up at McLaren Applied, training people on how to use their data analysis software.
I had a phone call from McLaren Applied and asking me to come and kind of interview for this role. I never dreamed of that I could be involved in motorsport in that way and be able to deliver my expert from what I've learned in education and teaching in the motors industry into the motorsport arena. And suddenly I found myself sitting there working on my next stage of my career.
And this is a great example. Oliver is a real motorsport enthusiast, and because of that, he managed to bend his career into his dream industry. Okay, so you need passion, you need some skills. What else do you need to accelerate your dream career in motorsport? Well, you need to show that you have initiative and that you're willing to get involved to go the extra mile. Of all the interviews that I've done, this is the one piece of advice that kept on coming up. Sounds simple, but show that you're actually interested and involved somehow in motorsport.
Nothing really stands out more than actually being able to go and say, hey, look, I volunteered to go and either be on track, or I volunteered to either go and do some work experience to really get a taste for this.
And I know some of you might not be close to a race circuit or even have one in your country, but this type of thing isn't something that you actually need to go to a racetrack for. You could help out at the local go-kart track, you could download data logging software and create some kind of report, you could build your own racing lawnmower. The possibilities are endless, but the point is to show that you're doing this stuff as a hobby in your own time. And if you are, you'll really stand out to employers.
It's about kind of creating your knowledge and taking control of it. There's a lot of people that sit back and go, I've got a degree, why can't I get a job? Because there's people out there who are constantly on it to try and better themselves, educate themselves.
And if you're in university and they have a Formula Student team, go and join it.
Formula Student is big. That's something we look for specifically when we're hiring too. Those people that do Formula Student have the work ethic to go above and beyond and do, more than just your typical college course load.
So many of the employers I spoke to mentioned Formula Student. So if you have the possibility, get involved. It also looks like an incredible experience. Okay, so you're ready for your career in the motorsport industry, but how do you get your foot in the door? Here, I'd say that most employees I spoke to started off in lower series. However, a few did go directly into F1. So it is possible, but again, it depends on the role. If you're jumping into something like a social media or hospitality role, you won't need experience in lower formulas. But for something like a race engineer, it's going to be important.
For me, it's very important to start in lower series and learn, the business. It's like if a driver was going from karting to F1 directly without going through, F4, F3, F2. So they are very important for an engineer.
So how do you go about contacting teams? Well, of course, it's pretty simple. Keep on picking up the phone and sending emails, and start with the smaller national level race teams, as you'll likely have more success there. And you'll be surprised by how many of them would like an extra pair of hands at the weekend.
Towards the end of my bachelor's, I was already starting to go and do some freelancing, going around sports cars teams like British GT4 teams or British touring car teams, just ringing up, just cold calling, effectively asking if they were interested in having an extra engineer along for not much money to come and help out.
If you have some skills, if you're a helpful person, and if you're willing to get involved, I promise some of these teams would love to have you there. And from that point, you can understand how racing works, which roles you're actually interested in, and begin to grow your network around the paddock. And on that point, networking is also very important. And this means both physically and digitally. If you have the opportunity to visit a circuit, just go and hang around. It's not as daunting as you might think.
We're lucky with a lot of the lower series that they have open paddocks, and you can walk around and you can meet teams and get your name out there.
And if you combine circuit visits with a couple of emails and phone calls, you'll likely be able to find your way into a team and start from there. Then you have social media, including LinkedIn. And this is where actually having a passion for motorsport comes in. If your social profile shows you at the racing circuit, watching F1 on the TV, in a sim, or at the local karting track, it's easy for employers to see that you're passionate about motorsport. And if you produce content about your motorsport interests, whether it's articles, LinkedIn posts, or screenshots of your work, that's a real benefit and will help you stand out from other applicants. Now, onto the application and interview process. First, and this is a given, you need to have a nice looking single page CV that's filled with the right qualifications and loads of additional motorsport activities. And it's important that it's in the style of the country of the company you're applying for. Now, I didn't realise this before, I thought all CVs were the same, but apparently the format can differ from country to country. But what kind of information should you put on your CV?
So when we're looking at CVs, try and get your outcomes in there. Try and show that you're, not only passionate about it. Passion will take you so far, but you're willing to go the extra step and go, okay, where can I volunteer? Where can I add in extra information?
So you've made it through the application process and have an interview. But how do you stand out and get the job offer?
Doing your research, understanding what the role is about, and understanding a company's history is a really good way of standing out to the rest of the applications.
And of course, during this interview, they'll ask you lots of questions, usually about how you'd handle a certain situation. These are questions like, tell me about a time you've done X, or give me an example of when you've done Y. And here the employers are trying to create an opportunity for you to explain your experience.
The really great answers and the people that make you really excited are the ones that don't just go, okay, well, that's when I did it. The really great people are the ones that go, okay, so this was the situation, this is what I needed to achieve, this is how I went about achieving it, and these are the results, but I might have added something a bit differently if I was to review that again.
And some of the best advice I got was going above and beyond with the interview preparation, especially if you're chasing a higher level role. I heard multiple times that companies had candidates come to them with a presentation, usually on how they thought they could add more value.
I got a call to go in Cologne to do an interview, and I arrived super prepared. I had made a PowerPoint presentation of the job I was doing. So I arrived super prepared to this interview, and the guy read it and I said, that's great. And they offered me a job immediately.
And Julian wasn't just preparing like this for his F1 interviews. He'd been preparing that way, doing a ton of interview preparation all the way through his career. And the final thing I learned was, It just takes time. Most of the people I spoke to in high positions in Formula One or wider motorsport had taken at least 10 years to get there. And they all started off in much lower positions at much smaller teams and companies. So start off small, build your experience and network, and know it's likely going to take a while. But with persistence and preparation, I think that anyone can make a successful career in motorsport. If you're looking for a motorsport job, please take a look at fluidjobs.com and set up some job alerts. And if you're not quite ready, check out our motorsport career preparation tool, link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.